Vintage is hip here when it comes to things like clothing and home decor. But what about in the tech world? CNN's Rick Damigella tells us why some local gamers are buzzing about vintage video games that are suddenly playable again. Appalachia High School students are back in class less than 3 weeks after the latest deadly school shooting took 4 lives there. But since that day, hoaxes and threats have kept schools across the country on edge. As CNN's Lee Waldman reports, many are shifting their focus to practical ways to keep students safer. As the feds talk about lowering interest rates, hopeful home buyers may be thinking about getting into the market. But even if you can swing the mortgage, there are other costs to take into consideration. You can expect to hear a lot from both presidential candidates about grocery prices in the coming months. But apart from the rhetoric, what's the real deal on food prices and inflation? CNN's Karen Kaifa breaks it down. After months of wild weather impacting the country, experts say the situation is snowballing into what some are calling an insurance crisis. The American Red Cross is sending out a plea for help as it faces an emergency blood shortage. CNN's Mandy Gaither explains how the weather is wreaking havoc on our blood supply and how you can help. Anyone interested in donating blood or platelets can make an appointment at a local blood donation site by using the Red Cross Blood Donor app, calling 1-800-RED-CROSS, or visiting redcrossblood.org. Fire weather days are increasing at an alarming rate, according to Climate Central. As our colleagues at the Weather Channel report, that's a big reason why wildfires are consuming more acres than ever before, especially in California. Payment apps like Venmo, PayPal, and Zelle may be convenient, but the state attorney general and local law enforcement warn they can also be used to trick you out of your money. That's why one group of lawmakers want to put consumer protections in place. CNN's Jen Sullivan explains. This summer's broiling heat has raised utility bills as we all try to find a way to keep cool. But that's not the only place the heat is torching our finances. CNN's Ivan Rodriguez looks at the impact you'll feel in your grocery store produce aisle. Maybe I'm just hungry, but do those Olympic rings ever make you think of donuts? That's possibly why Krispy Kreme is going for gold with its new Olympic tie-in. It's being called the largest IT meltdown in history. Friday's massive tech outage swept major services worldwide, disrupting public transportation links, delaying flights, and restricting operations for healthcare, finance, and other critical infrastructure. Lee Waldman has the story. A recall you should know about before your next meal, and a new study on the effectiveness of weight loss drugs. But first, concerning statistics about women's healthcare. Some Disney visitors are disappointed with the happiest place on earth. But first, one of the biggest retailers in the country has announced it will no longer accept checks from customers. Commuting. Do you ever feel like you just spend your whole life in traffic? Well, that's an exaggeration, but how much time do we really spend behind the wheel? As summer cranks up the heat, Dallasites can cool down at these top-notch pools scattered across the city. You can watch Thursday's debate live right here on Local Now. We'll have 8 different channels covering this must-see event, complete with pre-debate analysis and post-debate reaction. All eyes will be on Atlanta Thursday for the historic presidential debate, the first ever between an incumbent and a former president. 1 in 10 Georgia voters still remain undecided on who they'll vote for come November. CNN's Randy Kay sat down with undecided local women on both sides of the political fence to see which way they're leaning and why. Not to toot our own horn, but while we're celebrating freedom, Local Now is always free. And along with weather and news, we have tons of movies and shows to keep you entertained all summer and beyond. A task force at Columbia University is revealing disturbing instances of anti-Semitism and a generally hostile environment for Jewish students and faculty. Columbia created the task force in November, months before the protests in May that ended in dozens of arrests. CNN's Omar Jimenez digs into the findings. In the U.S. this year alone, there have been at least 86 unintentional shootings by children, resulting in more than 30 deaths. But many of these tragedies can be prevented. For Firearms Safety Month, CNN's Mandy Gaither has tips on how to have the tough conversation about firearms safety with other parents before playdates. Hunter Biden, the son of President Joe Biden, has been found guilty on all counts in his federal gun trial. With warmer weather comes something unwelcome: ticks. Ick. One tick in particular can spread a life-changing illness, and unfortunately, it's on the rise here. The prosecution has rested its case against Hunter Biden, accusing him of lying on a federal gun purchase form in 2018 when he said he wasn't using drugs at the time he bought the firearm. Let's try this again. The long-awaited launch for the first crewed mission of Boeing's Starliner is set for Saturday. While this week featured fiery testimony from adult film star Stormy Daniels, next week may see even bigger fireworks in former President Donald Trump's hush money case.